Welcome in once again to Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips joined by Collyn Taylor. The Will Muschamp Tuesday press conference taking place today. Gamecocks coming off the bye week at 5-2 overall, 3-2 in SEC play, and get ready to take on Vanderbilt in the 4 o'clock kickoff Saturday at Williams-Brice. Vandy coming in 3-4 and 0-4 in the league. Collyn, Vandy's lost 4 straight. So we'll start with the injury front here. Collyn, the Gamecocks getting healthy on the bye week as we expected. Muschamp said that the 3 injured offensive linemen, Zach Bailey, Corey Helms, and Malik Young, are all back at practice this week. That's good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Muschamp was pretty clear after Tennessee that the team was banged up, and they were going to use this off week now to kind of get right, and it seems like it's worked. Zach Bailey and Corey Helms both fully practiced today. Malik Young is kind of off and on from what Tadarius Hutcherson said today. All 3 are expected to play. To what extent, we really don't know yet. The starting jobs are still up for grabs, but it's definitely good news. And then Terry Guger is out. Concussion protocol, he's questionable. And Chad Terrell kind of tweaked his ankle against Tennessee, and he's still questionable. But all in all, the Gamecocks are slowly working back to 100% healthy, which is huge news. I mean, that's been a thing that's plagued them all year.
Collyn,
so it's obviously good news.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that Muschamp didn't say anything about Deebo Samuel, but we're hearing rumblings that Deebo could be coming back sometime soon.
Yeah, the thought is that he could potentially return late in the season. Muschamp said they're obviously still a long ways away from that, but the window is still there for him to kind of return a little bit, and it's obviously up to the doctors. See, how far along is he if he's running at 100%, but Muschamp said that they're not going to put anybody out there that's not fully 100% healthy. So if he's ready to go by the bowl game or by Clemson by chance, then you could see a healthy Deebo Samuel on the field for South Carolina this year.
I don't want to get people's hopes up here. Muschamp, there's been talk that Deebo could return this year, and we're starting to hear more about that here in the last week or so. But Muschamp did not address it today, and I shouldn't have said that he might be back soon, but there is a possibility that he will be back this year. So that certainly is good news. And the information that we got on the 3 Gamecock offensive linemen, good as well. So in what has been a very difficult year for injuries for the Gamecocks, South Carolina does get a little bit of good news this week going into the Vanderbilt game. So 5 games left in the season here, Collyn, and Muschamp talked about a number of things. Speaking of injuries, Rico Dowdle lost for the year with a fractured fibula, and Mon Denson will be the 3rd running back this week against Vanderbilt. Denson's an interesting story, Collyn. Many Gamecock fans may not know a lot about him, but Muschamp talked about him in today's presser.
Yeah, and he's a guy that kind of came in 2 years ago, been battling some injuries, could never get fully healthy, and kind of had to wait his turn behind, guys like A.J. Turner and Rico Dowdle. But he's, fully healthy now, and he's getting his opportunity. It's, what he's waited for. He talked to the media today that obviously he was frustrated for those 2 years, but he's ready to go and he's ready to make the most of this opportunity. And he's a guy that they could bring him on short yardage situations. He's a bigger, more power back that can be pretty versatile to combat Tyson Williams and A.J. Turner.
Yeah, Mon Denson still 3rd on the running back depth chart behind Tyson Williams and A.J. Turner, but he could get on the field Saturday against Vanderbilt. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So, Collyn, Muschamp talked about the philosophy of taking the ball first to start the game, and he went game by game and recounted what the Gamecocks have done with the opening possession all season long, and he lamented the fact that the Gamecocks have missed 9 field goals this year. He mentioned that on a couple of occasions in today's presser, talking about the Gamecocks' field goal woes this season. But, Muschamp's very much on top of things, Collyn. That's one thing I enjoy about him. He was asked about the philosophy of taking the ball first to start the game. When you win the coin toss and you have the option to defer or to take the ball or kick, he's frequently taken the ball first, and he was asked about that today, and he recounted every single first possession for the Gamecocks in all 7 games this year at today's press conference.
Right. South Carolina's won all 7 coin tosses this year, which is kind of unthinkable when you think of just general probability. And they've taken the ball first on every single opportunity they got. And, Will Muschamp broke down every starting drive through the first 7 games, and really made you think about, how somewhat productive they've been. They took the opening kickoff back against NC State, scored on the first play of the game against Kentucky, and then missed 2 field goals against, Missouri and then Louisiana Tech. So, taking the ball first has seemingly been a pretty good strategy for him so far, and it kind of gives the defense a chance to settle down a little bit from the emotions of, pregame and things like that. And, it tries to give South Carolina kind of a leg up if they can start up, 3-0 or 7-0. That's kind of a good jumping off point for him and kind of eat some clock. So, I like that about Muschamp too. He never leaves a stone unturned. He comes in, if he's coming in misprepared for press conferences, I can only imagine what he's like in the meeting rooms and, in recruits' houses and things like that. So, he's really diligent about, doing his legwork and doing, what he needs to do to be successful, I think.
I was impressed that he knew the result of all 7 opening drives. He was just kind of asked off the cuff about it, and he went through them one by one, all 7 games. He knew them all, what the Gamecocks had done on the first possession of all 7 games. So, and he did lament the fact that the Gamecocks had missed a couple field goals. He talked about that on a couple of different occasions in today's press conference, saying that it's deflating for the offense when they put together an 8 or a 10-play drive, particularly at the start of a game, trying to get momentum to begin the football game, and then you miss a field goal. So I think Muschamp is acutely aware of the Gamecocks' problems in the kicking game, and he talked about that a little bit today. So a couple of other things, just sort of odds and ends that Muschamp was asked about today. He was asked about, with a win over Vanderbilt, the Gamecocks will still have SEC East title hopes alive. He was asked if he's talked with the team about that, and Muschamp said, no, we haven't talked about that. He said, nobody in our organization's talking about that. He said, we got to go out and win this week, and he said the focus is Vanderbilt, Collyn.
Yeah, and Muschamp has done a really good job of emphasizing that and kind of, instilling that in his play, which kind of block out the world around you, and you focus on the game in front of you. Obviously with all these SEC East implications, none of those can really happen if you don't beat Vanderbilt. So, you're sitting at 2 losses right now in conference. Really one more kind of takes you out of things, essentially, for the SEC East with the way Georgia's playing. If they don't beat Vanderbilt, all of that SEC East talk and whatnot kind of goes out the window. So I think he's right in making sure that no one's really talking about anything else besides Vanderbilt. And, that's been Muschamp's, MO since he got here the entire season. They really don't focus on anything. They always say, we want to go 1-0 every week. It's kind of cliche, but, they've really taken to that and aren't really focused on anything other than, the game Saturday.
Right. Muschamp was asked about success coming off a bye week. He's got a winning record in his head coaching career coming off the bye, and the Gamecocks put together a 3-game win streak after the bye week last year. And one man that's behind the scenes a little bit, Collyn, at least from a fan standpoint, is Ellis Johnson. And Muschamp was asked about him, and Muschamp said great things about Ellis Johnson, a former Gamecock defensive coordinator who is still with the program in a sort of in a consultant capacity, if that's the right term, Collyn, and maybe you can expound on that. Muschamp said that Ellis Johnson helps the team prepare every week, and he said great things about Ellis Johnson.
All right, so he does a lot of quality control work. So he's doing a lot of behind-the-scenes preparation stuff for the coaches and the players. So the way Muschamp described it today is, if the coaches are focused on, Vanderbilt this week, he's going ahead and, breaking down film and cutting up film for maybe a Georgia or a Florida down the road and kind of mapping out those tendencies. That way when it's come down to, Georgia week, Florida week, from, his vantage point and kind of get his input as they start to game plan for, one of their opponents down the road. And that gives, the players a head start because they get all the stuff loaded onto iPads and technology. That way they can watch it. And, it doesn't cut into practice time or film time trying to get everything put together. So, he's a big part, obviously has head coaching experience, coordinator experience in the SEC. And I think he's a good football mind to have around, even if he's not doing, more on-field coaching.
No question. Boy, you think about all the experience that Ellis Johnson has got with college football and in the state of South Carolina. I would think that he is invaluable to a coach like Muschamp, who is still relatively new to the scene here in South Carolina and is finding his bearing. And I think Ellis Johnson is a great man to have in place to help Coach Muschamp do that. Gamecock Central Radio, it's Emerson Phillips with Collyn Taylor. We're talking about today's Will Muschamp press conference. We hope you've downloaded the Gamecock Central Radio app. We got this free phone app that allows you to listen to our podcast on your cell phone or mobile device. You can get the Gamecock Central Radio app on the App Store and on Google Play. The app is free. Our podcasts are free. You can subscribe to our podcast. Search for Gamecock Central Radio on iTunes, SoundCloud, and other popular services, or just visit radio.GamecockCentral.com. Download the GCR phone app today. And be sure to take advantage of the Gamecock Central hotline. We've set up this phone number that allows you to call in and take part in our podcast. You can call in 803-497-9058. It's 497-9058, and leave a question for Wes Mitchell and Chris Clark, and they'll answer your questions on an upcoming edition of Gamecock Central Radio. So we're taking questions right now on the Vanderbilt game. We're going to play all the recordings on the GCR hotline on this Saturday's Game Day podcast, 803-497-9058. Get involved with the GCR podcast. Collyn, Muschamp was asked about Chris Lamons, and this is a player that I like very much, playing defensive back for the Gamecocks. You know, primarily a corner, but they've moved him some to safety this year, and Muschamp was asked about that move for Lamons, and Muschamp said, yeah, that's a tough move for a lot of players, but Lamons has been very productive, and Muschamp said that versatility adds value to you as a player, and that's something that Chris Lamons has embraced. He's been a good ball player for the Gamecock defense.
He's been, sneaky good.
Yep.
A lot of the focus has turned to Rashad Fenton, obviously, for being, one of the best corners in the SEC. But Lamons, I don't think, gets enough credit. He's kind of taken on maybe a leadership role for some of the younger cornerbacks. And him and James, Williams, they have a really good relationship. And Lamons, it's invaluable, because he knows what the cornerbacks are supposed to do on each play, and now he kind of knows what the safeties are supposed to do. And he can make sure everyone's in the right spot pre-snap and during the play, kind of know that where he needs to be, and where, if he sees a cornerback not where they need to be, he can go kind of fill in for him on the fly. So I think that, a guy that's played multiple positions over a couple of different years is certainly helpful to, young players and veterans alike. The secondary doesn't get enough credit, but I think they have a lot of guys that are really smart and football savvy back there that are really, really helping out some of the younger players in that 2017 recruiting class.
All right. Yeah, Muschamp said good things about Chris Lamons today. So, Collyn, give us early thoughts on Vanderbilt. Vandy's lost 4 straight, all 4 in league play. They got blown out by Bama, lost by a couple of TDs to Florida, hammered by Georgia, and then beaten pretty soundly by Ole Miss. So, they started 3-0. They've lost 4 in a row. The Gamecocks are only a 7-point favorite coming into this game. And, it feels like it's going to be an old-fashioned Carolina-Vanderbilt game where, it could be low scoring, and it's probably going to be a physical football game that is decided in the fourth quarter. Collyn, that's just my gut feeling here on Tuesday.
And, you look back historically against Vanderbilt, that's always been the case. Even when South Carolina was rattling off, 8, 9, 10, 11 win seasons, Vanderbilt always seems to play close. The two are very similar in philosophy in terms of, defense first. Derek Mason always does a good job with the defense. And, you look back, and even last year under Muschamp, they needed an Elliott Price field goal to win it. I think it's going to be low scoring too. Vanderbilt's kind of reeling after starting 3-0 and kind of getting walloped once they got on SEC play. I think they're going to be kind of coming out and looking to make a statement, trying to get back on the right track. And South Carolina still trying to build on some momentum going forward from back-to-back wins. So, like you said, I think it's going to be close. I think, South Carolina has the edge in terms of talent, I think. But, you never really know come Sunday. Jamarcus King said today they're really not looking at the records. They're just, analyzing things based on film. I think South Carolina's taking the right approach to it, but I think it's going to be close. Vanderbilt usually plays this team really well, especially at Williams, right?
Yeah, Vanderbilt has given the Gamecocks fits in recent years. Carolina beat them 13-10 last year in the season opener up in Nashville. That was Will Muschamp's first game as the Gamecocks head coach, but a lot of close games between these teams over the years, and I feel like we can't sleep on Vanderbilt. You look at their record, they're not impressive this year, but I got to feel like they're tired of getting beat up, Collyn, and they feel like South Carolina's a team that they have played with over the years, and they're going to come in Saturday ready to play. Their quarterback, Kyle Shermer, has got 14 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions this year. And Ralph Webb, had a good game against South Carolina 2 years ago. So certainly we got to be wary of the Commodores coming into this 4 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. So, Collyn, we look forward to your coverage this week here on Gamecock Central Radio, heading into the Vandy game, and we look forward to talking with you again soon. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, thanks for joining us. That's Collyn Taylor, our staff writer here on Gamecock Central, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and we appreciate you listening to Gamecock Central Radio. Thanks for joining us.